Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I am Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour. In a swift response, an Indian warship intercepts a hijacked merchant vessel in the Arabian Sea. All 21 crew, including 15 Indians, safely evacuated. Israel's defense minister outlines post-war governance plan for Gaza. U.S. Secretary of State on his fourth visit to West Asia. EU foreign policy chief heads to Lebanon. South Korea conducts a live fire drill after the North fires more than 200 artillery rounds near a disputed sea boundary between the two countries. And campaigning ends for Sunday's Bangladesh election. 3 officials from India reach Dhaka as part of an international election observer mission. All 21 crew, including 15 Indian nationals on board a cargo vessel which was hijacked by pirates off the coast of Somalia, have been rescued, the Indian Navy has said in a statement on Friday. The Navy's elite marine commandos, or MARCOs, are continuing sanitization operations in other parts of the vessel. The MARCOs have confirmed the absence of the hijackers. The attempted hijacking was probably abandoned after a warning by the Indian Navy, and the vessel was intercepted. The INS Chennai is in the vicinity of the vessel and rendering support to restore and power generation and propulsion and commence her voyage to the next port of call. Right, so that's the news we are tracking on top of DD India News. All 21 crew, including 15 Indian nationals on board a hijacked vessel in the Arabian Sea, have been safely evacuated. The Indian Navy warship INS Chennai is in the vicinity of the hijacked vessel and is rendering all support to the merchant vessel for its onward journey. That's the latest news we are tracking here on DD India News Hour, and we'll get you more information from our correspondent Akshay Dongre, who's been tracking this story from the get-go. Right, and Akshay is with us. Akshay, are the rescue operations over?
Well, Ramesh, yes, finally the rescue operations are over and they have been safely executed. They have been safely evacuated, all the people, and the entire operation has been very precisely executed by the Indian Navy, which had gotten information about this particular hijacking last night, and immediately after knowing about, or rather, as soon as the Indian Navy got information about the hijacking, they diverted a warship of the Indian Navy, INS Chennai, that had in fact started closing in with the merchant vessel Leela Norfolk since last night itself. However, the kind of operation that has been carried out, including the kind of aerial surveillance that has been carried out by the Indian Navy, including PA-type Poseidon, we can look at how the drone technology has been utilized by the Indian Navy, including the Predator drones that have been used by the Indian Navy. It has the entire operation has been quite precise, and it has been executed in a manner when within 24 hours, not just the ship has been located by the warship of the Indian Navy, but all the people have been safely evacuated. Now, the most interesting thing that has happened in this particular rescue operation is the fact that as the Marine commandos had reached the merchant vessel, they found no hijacker on board. that may have happened in all probability as the Indian Navy approaches the ship. They first make announcement for the pirates to abandon the ship so that they can
Right.
avoid a firefight, and the pirates, in all probability, in a bid to getting in a bid to avoid from getting caught in a crossfire with the Indian Navy Marine Commandos, they fled the ship. So, good news coming in: all the 21 onboard people have now been evacuated. Now the operation is focused on restarting
Right.
the merchant vessel so that it can go to its port of call.
As you reported there, Akshay, the Indian Navy executed this operation with precision, and that aircraft, helicopters and drones were employed as well. But talking a bit more about the safety of the crew, including 15 Indian nationals on board, what more can you tell us on that count?
Well, as far as the safety of the crew and all the people on board are concerned, that was in fact the priority of the Indian Navy, because as soon as the information was given by the ship crew that there is an attempt of hijacking, 5 to 6 armed personnel have gotten on board the ship, and they were calling for reinforcement to divert the ship into from the international waters to probably the waters of Somalia or any other country the hijackers originally were from. So the first thing that was done, along with the diversion of INS Chennai towards the direction of the merchant vessel that was seeking assistance, a PA type Poseidon, that is one of the best or rather most technologically advanced surveillance and reconnaissance aircraft that flew over the merchant vessel, established contacts with all the people who were on board the ship, and ensured the safety of the ship as well as
Right.
the people that were on board. And that is only when the rescue operation, or rather evacuation, could be launched, and in a bid to avoid any kind of firefights that may have harmed any of the crew members or the people on board. For a long time, warnings were given by the Indian Navy commandos to abandon the ship, and that was clearly meant for the pirates to run away from the ship if there were any present. And even after the commandos had reached the ship, the first thing that was done was sanitization to ensure that there is nothing wrong as far as the ship is concerned, including any kind of explosive devices or any possibility of some pirates hiding into the ship. So that all were ascertained, and only after that the proper evacuation and transportation of all of these crews from the merchant vessel to the Indian naval ship Chennai was done.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Akshay, thank you. That was my colleague Akshay Dongre reporting from New Delhi. Right, moving on, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Jaipur for chairing a conference of the country's Directors General and Inspectors General of Police at Jaipur in the western state of Rajasthan. Upon his arrival, the Prime Minister met with lawmakers of the ruling BJP and other party workers. DD India's Vishal Badisto reports.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on a 3-day visit to Jaipur, the capital city of the Indian state of Rajasthan. PM Modi would be participating in the National Conference of Director Generals and Inspector Generals of Police. The 3-day event was inaugurated on Friday by the Indian Home Minister Amit Shah. The conference deliberates on the challenges of safety and security. On his arrival in Jaipur, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party lawmakers and office bearers from the state. On the second day of his visit, the Prime Minister will attend the All India Conference of Director Generals and Inspector Generals of Police at the Rajasthan International Centre. India's Home Minister and National Security Advisor will also participate in the deliberations. Security has been tightened throughout the city in view of the high-level meeting. The conference is the culmination of extensive deliberations involving police and intelligence officers from the district to the national levels on identified themes.
The 3-day conference of the Director Generals and Inspector Generals of Police have begun here in Jaipur at the Rajasthan International Centre. Home Minister Amit Shah inaugurated the event. Accompanying him was the National Security Advisor Ajit Dubal. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is also reaching Jaipur to attend this event tomorrow and day after. There are many important issues related with safety and security of the country that includes cyber security, trans-border terrorism and Naxalism. With cameraman Sanjay Jaina in Jaipur, this is Vishal Baristu for DD India.
It was an action-packed day for India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar in Nepal. He inaugurated many post-earthquake reconstruction projects. More in the next report.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar on Friday inaugurated Tribhuvan University Central Library, 25 schools, 32 health facilities and culture sector project. Speaking at the joint inauguration of Tribhuvan University Central Library and other post-earthquake reconstruction projects in Kathmandu, Dr. Jaishankar said, inauguration shows concrete delivery of the commitments made by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Nepal's post-earthquake reconstruction. India's External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar co-chaired the 7th India-Nepal Joint Commission in Kathmandu, along with his Nepalese counterpart N.P. Saud, during his two-day visit to Nepal. Two agreements were signed on the occasion. One was on India committing to export 10,000 megawatts of electricity to Nepal over the next 10 years. The other agreement was related to promoting Indian investments in high-impact community development projects in Nepal. The agreements were signed by officials from both sides in the presence of Nepal's Minister for Energy, Water Resources and Irrigation, Shakti Bahadur Basnet.
We are very satisfied that the Government of India has funded a project for the construction of 50,000 houses that were completed in November 2021. I'm happy to know that today's handing over of 25 schools and the inauguration of this very prestigious library, all these 71 projects being undertaken with reconstruction grant in the education sector have been completed and handed over to the government of Nepal.
Dr. Jaishankar also visited the famous Pashupatinath temple dedicated to Lord Shiva and prayed for the well-being of the peoples of the two countries and India-Nepal ties. The minister later in a social media post said, "Blessed to visit Pashupatinath temple today morning, prayed for the well-being of our two peoples and India-Nepal ties." The External Affairs Minister also planted Rudraksh saplings to support mission life and encourage putting India's efforts into preventing damage from climate change. India is Nepal's largest trading partner. India's ties with Nepal straddle diverse areas from economy to education and defense to development. Bureau Report, DD India.
Still to come on DD India News Hour. South Korea conducts a live fire drill after the North fires more than 200 artillery rounds near a disputed maritime border between the two countries. Ukraine claims that Russia fired missiles supplied by North Korea for the first time since the conflict broke out in February 2022. And Europe and parts of India continue to reel under extreme weather conditions.
Sir, try berry pulao. Too good. Good, no?
Hey, why are you giving him such looks? Ignore tips and use your own mind before you order. Lots of people give unsolicited stock tips. It can be dangerous. Study the company and the risk associated. Invest only after analysis.
Do you know there's an investor protection fund for investors, IPF, but if your trade isn't executed on the exchange or if it's some guaranteed return scheme, then even IPF will not be able to help you.
And what if your broker becomes a defaulter? Then?
In that case, IPF can provide you with compensation.
Where did you learn this?
NSE's website.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. To West Asia now, the killing of a Hamas leader in Lebanon and the deadly bombings in Iran have heightened fears of the Israel-Hamas conflict spilling beyond Gaza. The foreign ministers of the US and EU are visiting the region in a bid to cool down tempers.
On 2nd January, Saleh al-Aruri, a deputy political leader of Hamas, was killed in an attack in Lebanon. On 3rd January, at least 84 people were killed in 2 blasts in quick succession in Iran. The Hamas leader's assassination and the deadly blast coinciding with the anniversary of the 2020 killing of an Iranian military officer, Qasem Soleimani, have reignited fears of the Israel-Hamas conflict spilling beyond Gaza into West Asia and the Gulf. That and the attacks on commercial shipping vessels in the Red Sea have put the region on heightened alert over the potential breakout of a wider conflict. The Hezbollah in Lebanon has vowed revenge for the Hamas leader's killing. Similarly, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has vowed a harsh response to the twin blast at Kerman. The Islamic State terrorist group has claimed responsibility for the Iran explosions. In a statement posted on social media, the IS said 2 of its members detonated an explosive belt in the crowd that had gathered at the tomb of Qasem Soleimani. It is the bloodiest attack since the 1979 Islamic Revolution in Iran. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel was committed to destroying Hamas during a meeting with US Senator Lindsey Graham in Tel Aviv on Thursday.
We're absolutely committed to achieving our war games, that is, destroying our war goals, destroying Hamas, releasing our hostages, making sure Gaza doesn't become a threat again, and also making sure that we can return our citizens in the north and in the south. And for that, we'll apply maximum power with maximum precision everywhere that's needed.
The US says it is in no position to doubt the Islamic State's claim.
We have seen the public credit now that ISIS-K has taken for the attack in Iran. We're certainly in no position to doubt that claim by ISIS-K. I haven't seen anything that indicates there's a direct link to what's going on in Gaza and with the attack in Iran on the anniversary of Soleimani's death. I haven't seen anything tangible that would tell me that there's a link there.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is visiting West Asia on a week-long tour. This is his 4th visit to the region since the Israel-Hamas conflict.
Over the course of the next week, the Secretary will visit Turkey, Greece, Jordan, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Israel, the West Bank, and Egypt for meetings with foreign counterparts and others. The Secretary will focus on a number of critical issues on this trip. First, he will discuss immediate measures to increase substantially humanitarian assistance to Gaza. The United States has played a critical role in unlocking humanitarian assistance for the Palestinian people, but conditions remain extremely difficult.
As fighting between Israel and Hezbollah intensifies, European Union's Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell is visiting Lebanon on Friday. Blinken and Borrell can be expected to try halt the spillover of the conflict in Gaza to the Israeli-occupied West Bank, Lebanon and Red Sea shipping lanes. Israel announced a more targeted approach on Thursday as Blinken set off a week-long tour of the region. But Palestinians say there has been no let-up in Israeli airstrikes and shelling. The EU says Borrell will discuss the situation along the Israel-Lebanon border and the importance of avoiding regional escalation by stepping up diplomatic efforts. Bureau Report, DT India.
Meanwhile, tightening the news on Hamas, the US is offering up to $10 million for information on 5 Hamas financiers or anything leading to the disruption of the Palestinian militant group's financial mechanisms. The US State Department said that the rewards would be for information on any source of revenue for Hamas, major donors, financial institutions that facilitate transactions for Hamas, front companies that procure dual-use technology for the group, and criminal schemes that benefit Hamas. According to the State Department, the reward offering follows 4 rounds of US sanctions on Hamas after the group's deadly incursion into Israel on 7th October, which Israel says killed 1,200 people. Right, shifting focus away from West Asia now to the Indo-Pacific. Relations between the two Koreas are at one of their lowest points in decades. On Friday, South Korea conducted a live fire drill after North Korea fired more than 200 artillery rounds near a disputed sea boundary between the two countries. Seoul held Pyongyang responsible for escalating tensions on the peninsula and warned that it will have to pay the price for its misadventure.
North Korea on Friday fired more than 200 rounds of artillery shells into the sea near a tense maritime border. The shells landed north of the northern limit line, the de facto sea boundary between the two Koreas, and towards 2 South Korean islands. However, no casualties were reported.
North Korean military fired more than 200 artillery shells from Jangspan Cape north of Bangyong Island and Donsin Cape north of Yeopang Island. There is no damage to our people and the military, and the shells splashed into the north of the northern limit line.
Seoul warned North Korea and responded with live fire drill of heavy-duty weapons in Yongpyong Island.
We sternly warn North Korea that they are fully responsible for this escalation of the crisis, and we strongly urge them to stop it. Our military is tracking and monitoring related situations in close cooperation with the US and the South Korea, and will implement measures in response to the North Korea's provocation.
Situated in the Yellow Sea, Yeonpyong Island is home to over 2,000 residents and troops stationed there. The exchange led residents of 2 remote South Korean islands on the western maritime frontier to evacuate to bomb shelters at the instruction of the South military.
I think people have to be certainly informed of the reason why we have to evacuate and how and where to evacuate, since we do not generally know where evacuation shelters or bunkers are at.
The waters near the disputed NLL have been the site of several deadly clashes between the North and South Korea, including battles involving warships and the sinking of a South Korean corvette in 2010 by what is believed to be a North Korean torpedo, killing 46 sailors. Bureau Report, DD India.
Right, moving on, Russia has hit Ukraine with missiles supplied by North Korea. For the first time during its conflict, Ukraine's presidential aide has said, corroborating an earlier assertion by the US. But Mikhailo Podolyak did not provide evidence for the missiles being North Korean. In its statement on Thursday, the US had cited declassified intelligence. There was no immediate comment from Russia in this matter. Earlier on Friday, Ukraine's state media quoted the governor of the country's eastern region of Kharkiv as saying that missiles produced outside Russia had been fired into the province at the end of December and beginning of January. Prosecutors in Kharkiv region said that they were conducting an investigation into the country of origin of 3 missiles used by Russia to hit the provincial capital on Tuesday. Their statement did not name North Korea. That attack on Kharkiv city killed 2 people and injured 62. Campaigning for the 7th January election in Bangladesh ends on Friday. Polling in 299 constituencies will take place from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. local time on Sunday. The Bangladesh government has imposed a 24-hour ban on taxi cabs, pickup vans, microbuses and trucks. The ban will come into effect from Saturday midnight on the eve of the election. Meanwhile, 3 members of the Election Commission of India reached Dhaka ahead of the general election. They will actively participate as part of an international election observer team contributing to the monitoring process. BNP, the main opposition party in Bangladesh, took out processions and conducted a nationwide mass contact program on Friday to protest against the holding of the election. Its supporters filled the streets calling for a free and fair election. The BNP has also called a countrywide strike from Saturday through Monday as part of its election boycott. It's the 13th phase of strike called by the BNP since 28th of October. There's a heavy deployment of the security forces across the country to avoid a law and order crisis. The BNP and its allies are boycotting the election, alleging that a free and fair election is not possible under the current government. 1,970 candidates are in the fray, including 90 women and 79 candidates from religious and ethnic minorities. Meanwhile, leaders of religious minorities have demanded effective security for the minorities before and after the polling. The Secretary General of Okia Parishad says that some candidates make explosive statements and use derogatory language which primarily target the minorities. Fears were expressed that if the Election Commission and security forces do not take strong measures, the oppression may escalate on voting day. Right, moving on, cold wave continues to tighten its grip worldwide, enveloping some parts of the world in dense fog, disrupting transportation. Elsewhere, European countries are grappling with deadly flooding and extreme cold, posing a challenge for cities and people alike. DD India's Faiz Khan reports.
North India continues to shiver in a cold wave as dense fog hovered over major cities. North Indian states of Punjab, Haryana and Rajasthan will experience cold to severe cold conditions and dense fog, India's meteorological department warned on Friday. India's capital, New Delhi, is also expected to face cold to severe cold day conditions. Residents of the national capital woke up to dense fog on Friday, while the minimum temperature settled at a not-so-cold 9.4 degrees Celsius. However, poor visibility continues to impact train and flight services in the capital.
मैं रोज सुबह यहाँ वॉक करने आता हूँ। ठंड बहुत अच्छी पड़ रही है। आज कल से 2 डिग्री ज़्यादा है। कल 6 डिग्री था, आज अभी 8 डिग्री है इस समय। लेकिन हमारी आदत बनी हुई है, लोग पॉल्यूशन कहते हैं, लेकिन वॉक ना करें तो हमारा काम नहीं चलता है। तो हम रोज सुबह वॉक के लिए आते हैं और बहुत मज़ा आता है, बहुत एंजॉय करते हैं।
In Jammu and Kashmir, minimum temperatures rose slightly on Friday after days of continued sub-zero temperatures. IMD said moderate to heavy rainfall is likely to occur in parts of South India, including Tamil Nadu, South Kerala and Lakshadweep. European countries are also reeling under extreme weather conditions, from heavy storms to severe floods disrupting transport, power and schools. Britain woke up to major flooding in the Midlands region on Friday as the country was battered by heavy rain overnight. Nottinghamshire County declared a major incident on Thursday due to the rising water levels along the River Trent following Storm Henk. In northern France, floodwater submerged streets and houses on Thursday due to the impact of Atlantic storms, which dumped rain or snow on saturated ground. So far, hundreds have been evacuated in Pas-de-Calais department since the flooding broke out. Weather Service has also listed 4 other departments on orange alert for flooding. In Germany, heavy rain has resumed in regions that have seen persistent flooding over the past 2 weeks. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz on Thursday promised help to the people in the flooded and potentially endangered areas in Germany.
For many days, countless citizens but also aid organizations and state institutions have been working hard. Nobody is watching the clock. Everyone is doing the best they can to ensure that the flood does not have consequences that it could have if there were not constant defenses of specific villages and everyone working hard.
Finland is experiencing an exceptionally cold start to the year, with temperatures ranging from -15 Celsius to below 40 degrees Celsius, putting pressure on the country's power grid. A local Finnish filmed boiling water turning into an arc of snow after being thrown in the air in Lapland. Extreme temperatures swept through Sweden's north on Thursday, while the south, rescue services evacuated motorists from hundreds of cars stuck overnight due to the heavy snowfall, strong winds and icy conditions. Moscow experienced its lowest temperature in 74 years as thermometers plunged to minus 27 degrees Celsius in some districts on Thursday, with temperature falling 13 to 15 degrees Celsius below the average. In China, thick fog has enveloped several provinces on Thursday, forcing the closure of roads and highways as visibility plummeted. The visibility recorded between 50 meters to 200 meters in southern provinces. The weather agency had also issued warning for heavy fog.
Still to come on DD India News Hour. An expert shares his take on the tensions in West Asia and the Gulf. The US offers up to $10 million for information on 5 Hamas financiers. And India ranks 4th in the world in cutting-edge military drone technology.
Sir, try berry pulao. Too good. Good, no?
Hey, why are you giving him such looks? Ignore tips and use your own mind before you order. Lots of people give unsolicited stock tips. It can be dangerous. Study the company and the risk associated. Invest only after analysis.
Do you know there's an investor protection fund for investors, IPF, but if your trade isn't executed on the exchange or if it's some guaranteed return scheme, then even IPF will not be able to help you.
And what if your broker becomes a defaulter? Then?
In that case, IPF can provide you with compensation.
Where did you learn this?
NSE's website.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. In a swift response, an Indian warship intercepts a hijacked merchant vessel in the Arabian Sea. All 21 crew, including 15 Indians, safely evacuated. Israel's defense minister outlines post-war governance plan for Gaza. U.S. Secretary of State on his 4th visit to West Asia. EU foreign policy chief heads to Lebanon. And campaigning ends for Sunday's Bangladesh election. 3 officials from India reached Dhaka as part of an international election observer mission. Right, Mr. Atul Aneja joins me in the studio to make sense of the developments in West Asia and the Gulf. Mr. Aneja is the editor of India Narrative, a news and views website based out of India's capital, New Delhi. He's lived and reported from West Asia. Mr. Aneja, welcome to DD India. Good to see you in the new year.
Thank you, Ramesh.
First off the mark, are fears of a wider regional conflict exaggerated?
I don't think so, Ramesh.
Why do you say that?
Because if you look in the region, there is Israel on one side, Hamas, let's bracket them together. And then for a regional conflict to materialize, there are 2 major players. One is Hezbollah, which is across northern Israel, and the other is Iran. And Iran and Hezbollah are working together. Now, what has happened recently is a point of inflection. The assassination of a top Hamas leader. Now, the important thing is the location where it takes place. It takes place in Beirut and I've been in Beirut, and this is the southern part of Beirut. This is an area called Dahieh, which is a stronghold of the Hezbollah. So they have hit a Hamas leader in the lair of the Hezbollah. Hezbollah has always said that it's a Lebanese organization. And therefore, they are citing that this is, first of all, a matter of pride. That how come you hit our guy in our lair? True. So that's the psychological element. Second thing is the political argument that this is Lebanese territory and this is a violation of sovereignty. So that gives you another argument for taking a response on that. And along with that, Ramesh, parallelly, things that were happening in Iran, which is again the terrorist strike in Karman, which takes place on the day when Qasem Soleimani, Al-Quds commander, legendary figure from Iranian perspective, and there are scores which are killed over there. Clearly, both the Hezbollah and Iranians have been provoked by a simultaneous, and I would say a coordinated action by the Israelis. Israelis don't say that, but as an observer, I think you can't separate the two incidents. And therefore, the ball is now in the court of Iran and Hezbollah. And the moment, in response to what has happened, Iran and Hezbollah come into the play, we come to your original question. It spreads into a regional conflict. And once you have a regional conflict coming in, then you have the Americans coming in because they're allies of the... So it has a cascading effect. Indeed. So I think we are at an inflection point right now because of the events which took place day before yesterday.
Fair enough. Let's for a moment narrow the field to three actors: Israel, the US, and as you said, Iran. Now, by Israel's own admission, it's pulling out some troops from Gaza to focus on targeted operations against Hamas. At the same time, we have seen Israel targeting Syria and Lebanon. Israel is also reported to have had a hand in the killing of an Iranian nuclear scientist, Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, in the year 2020. Talking about the US, similarly, an Iranian military general, Qasem Soleimani, was killed in a US drone strike in the year 2020. And last month, the US launched a coalition to protect the commercial shipping lanes in the Red Sea. Coming to Iran now, as for Iran, it supports the, as you said, the Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen. Isn't it already a combustible mix? Like even a small error, miscalculation is all it takes to start a war, isn't it?
Yes and no. Because if you look at Iran, what is the top priority of Iran? It's apart from its image in the region, is its survival as a state as an Islamic democracy, or So it is essentially that it has to protect that. So what Iran would do its best is to make sure that there is no regime change which takes place in Iran. That is its number one priority. So whatever action it takes, suppose it goes all out, suppose in a war, it's completely hypothetical, against Israel. Sure. And then Israel retaliates, and with the Israelis comes the Americans with it, then there is a threat to regime survival in Iran. So the Iranians would calculate very, very carefully as to the level of escalation. I don't think they would want escalation to reach a point when there is a retaliation against Iran. So there is an inherent dynamic of exercising restraint, because regime survival is the most important thing for Iranians. And that, despite what the Houthis are doing, despite what's happened in Beirut, I think that will play out. That is the sentiment, or that is the underlying, what do you say, the driving force for Iranians to survive and to make sure that there is no regime change which takes place over there.
Which brings me to my next question to Mr. Aneja. Do you buy reports of the Islamic State claiming responsibility for the attacks? The US says it has no reason to doubt the IS claims.
Look, Ramesh, we have been watching IS for a long time, and I'm going by what is there on, in the public domain. Now, there are umpteen articles you will find on the internet saying that the IS has been infiltrated by intelligence agencies or foreign organizations, right? Now, I don't want to name which organization where, but IS being an autonomous actor, frankly, having observed both Afghanistan, AFPAC area, and Middle East, I don't buy that argument. This is my own personal view. So IS may take responsibility, which it has, but whether it is a radical group which has been behind the attack, or there are forces which have been infiltrated into this group which have caused this atrocity, I would say. What happened in Karman was an atrocity. You got lost innocent people, 70-odd people gone. So while the ISIS does take responsibility for it, I'm not sure that, that if you go really into depth, whether it alone was responsible for what happened in Kerman. I don't want to speculate beyond that.
Fair enough. Let's look at it from New Delhi's perspective now, Mr. Aneja. What are India's stakes in West Asia and the Gulf? I ask you this because India has interests in Iran. It has ties with Israel as well, and also with the wider Arab world. So what are India's stakes really in that part of the world?
Huge stakes, Ramesh. First thing is stability in the Gulf. Extremely important. We have so many Indian people of Indian origin and Indians working in the Gulf. And so their security is most important. If anything goes wrong or there's a conflict involving the Gulf, it hits us directly. Then it hits us economically because of the remittances these people send to us, number one. Number two, as you said, Iran. Without support from Iran, we don't get access into Afghanistan and Central Asia through the Chabahar route. So if you look at your Afghan policy, Iran's position is pivotal. So we don't want Iran to get into a conflict in the region. Israel, extremely important military partner of India. And, we would not want in any case that something goes wrong with the survival of Israel either. So you got to have your interests in rival camps, frankly.
True.
And that's the balancing act which we have to do, because we have to protect our core interests, Ramesh. Because if we don't have that, for example, with Iran, the Chabahar route, we don't get access into Central Asia. And probably most importantly is energy security.
True.
Any instability over there, we have a problem, and that causes inflation and economic disorder in India. Though we have the Russian lifeline, but that's not enough. The Gulf countries are extremely important for us for energy security. Right. So we have a deep stake in ensuring, and therefore I feel that we need to play a proactive role there in the region, because you can't be a bystander and watch this play go in a way which is inimical to our core interests.
And finally, Mr. Aneja, the foreign ministers of the US, EU and Germany are all either visiting the region or about to visit the region. Do you think diplomacy will be given a chance, that diplomacy will succeed?
I have a feeling whether or not these actors go, there is still not not enough combustible material for a regional conflict to take place. Okay. Initially you made this point about Israeli withdrawal from northern Gaza. Now, I think the messaging which is going on is that we are withdrawing from Gaza, which would logically think that humanitarian corridors may open out there, which is what is the requirement of the rest of the world. So Israel is signaling that. Second thing is, it is actually following the American script, because Americans told them from day one that don't go for a collective punishment of Gaza, but go for your surgical strike of the people who were responsible for perpetrating the atrocity on October 7th. So I think Israel is finally following into that. But there is also loss of pride of what happened on October 7th. So now when you do these dramatic assassinations, you say, okay, Mossad is still functional. We are strong. So that, while you convey that optics, this is the best time to also do a course correction. And I think that it's a combination of these two things, Ramesh, which is going on. Fascinating stuff, frankly.
Indeed, absolutely fascinating. On that note, Mr. Aneja, thank you once again for joining us and sharing your thoughts and insights with our viewers at home and abroad. Thank you for your time.
Very welcome, Ramesh.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Right, and moving on, back home, India's space agency ISRO is set to execute a key maneuver on Saturday, placing the Aditya L1 spacecraft, India's first space-based solar observatory, in its final orbit, located 1.5 million kilometers away from the Earth. The critical maneuver involves the firing of thrusters in order to change the speed and trajectory of the spacecraft. DD India's Aisha Khanam reports on Aditya L1's date with the sun.
Though the intended L1 point is about 1.5 million kilometers from the Earth, this is just 1% of the total distance between the Earth and the Sun. It is from here Aditya will begin its study of Sun without interruptions. Getting into this orbit is quite challenging, and it is the first time that ISRO is attempting such a maneuver. This maneuver is critical. It involves the firing of thrusters in order to change the speed and trajectory of the spacecraft. If the intended orbit is missed in the first attempt, there would be multiple subsequent corrections and thruster firings required. Since September 18, just 16 days into its journey, Aditya had started collecting scientific data and imaging the sun. The scientists have so far obtained the first sneak peek into high-energy X-ray of solar flares, full solar disk images, and others. Aditya has 7 scientific payloads, of which the Visible Emission Line Coronagraph, Solar Ultraviolet Imaging Telescope, that is SOOT, Solar Low Energy X-ray Spectrometer, High Energy L1 Orbiting X-ray Spectrometer are designed to directly track the sun.
Already ISRO has provided data from its scientific satellite, whether it is from Chandrayaan 1, 2, 3, Mangalyaan, AstroSat, YouthSat, Megha Tropics, such things. I'm sure ISRO is going to publish the data which was collected by Aditya L1 also to the international community as such. So this is for the entire humanity to manage the effects of solar anger, okay, at the global level.
These are other on-site measuring instruments like the Aditya Solar Wind Particle Experiment, that is ASPEX, Plasma Analyzer Package for Aditya, that is PAPA, and advanced tri-axial high-resolution digital magnetometers. 4 instruments, including PAPA, and 1 component, the Solar Wind Ion Spectrometer of ASPEX, was switched on during the spacecraft's cruising phase and are reportedly functioning well. Once Aditya is inserted into a halo orbit around L1, the satellite will have full access to solar storms, radiations, and other emissions emerging from the sun, even before they are directed towards Earth or come under the influence of the Earth's magnetic field. SOOT payload on the top deck of the Aditya L1 will be among the first to get operational once the spacecraft reaches L1.
India's ambitious mission Aditya L1 will reach its final destination on January 6th, and this will be yet another milestone and ISRO adding another feather in its cap. With cameraman Muni Krishna, Aisha Khanam, DD India, Bangalore.
India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal unveiled the logo and booklet for a mega mobility show called Bharat Mobility Global Expo 2024. While addressing the Curtain Raiser program in New Delhi, Minister Goyal urged the auto industry to not limit itself to achieving a 25% export share, rather to aim for at least 50% of export share. The minister also said that this is a young nation which wants to showcase to the world the best it has to offer.
This is a country in a hurry to perform. This is a nation, a young nation, who wants to showcase to the world the best that we have to offer. And therefore, we thought we don't have the luxury of time. We should not delay. And this is only a precursor, a beginning.
India ranks 4th in the world in cutting-edge military drone technology. It's attributed to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's push for Made in India unmanned aerial vehicles and innovation that aim to make India a drone hub by the year 2030. DD India's Nandita Daga reports from New Delhi.
India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh inaugurated a mega drone show at the Hindon Air Base near Delhi in September last year. The Indian Air Force joined forces with the Drone Federation of India to host the much-anticipated Bharat Drone Shakti 2023 event. This was a showcase of the technological prowess and testament to India's resolve to establish itself as a global drone hub by 2030. India is at the forefront of drone technology, fostering innovation and bolstering capabilities in both civil and defense applications. The Indian Air Force has been a pioneer in integrating drone technology into its operations. The remotely piloted aircraft, or RPA, has become indispensable for intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance operations. India ranks 4th in the world in terms of drone technology. Last month, the DRDO carried out a flight test of Swift, a stealth wing technology demonstrator that looks similar to the deadly US B-2 bomber jet in Chitradurga in Karnataka. The Swift is a prototype or scaled-down version of the upcoming unmanned combat aerial vehicle or Ghatak. The Indian Army, under its Make in India initiative, signed a contract to purchase more than 450 completely indigenous Nagastra-1 loitering drones. Drone capabilities have been well established in recent conflicts worldwide, like the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, and the ongoing war between Israel and Hamas. In New Delhi, this is Nandita Dagar for DD India.
And now to updates from the world of business and economy. According to a global survey, Indian industry hiring sentiment for the first quarter of 24 is said to be the highest among 41 countries. India maintains its position as the fastest growing economy. 49% of Indian employers have expressed their intention to hire more people from January to March 2024. According to this survey, the financial and real estate sectors have the highest and brightest outlook at 45%, followed by information technology at 44% and consumer goods and services sector at 42%. Energy and utilities sector will be hiring at 28%. Moving on, India's 2023 Diwali festivities witnessed a record surge of $45 billion in retail trade. According to the Confederation of All India Traders, consumers spend the highest of the total sales value on food and grocery, followed by textiles, garments and jewelry. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Vocal for Local and One District, One Product initiatives have encouraged Indian-made products, marking a shift towards indigenous products. India's retirement fund body, the Employees Provident Fund Organization, or the EPFO, registered a 2.87 million new women subscribers in the financial year 2023 as compared to 1.59 million in 2019 and 2020. Now, this indicates an increase in formal job creation despite the pandemic. An Indian minister, Rameshwar Teli, said that the estimated female worker population ratio increased to 35.6% during 22-23 from 28.7% in 2019 and 20. Initiatives such as extended maternity leave and safety measures provided by the central government are expected to provide equal opportunities and a safer work environment for women in the industry. All right, time for a very short break. Keep watching DD India News Hour.
Sir, try berry pulao. Too good. Good, no?
Hey, why are you giving him such looks? Ignore tips and use your own mind before you order. Lots of people give unsolicited stock tips. It can be dangerous. Study the company and the risk associated. Invest only after analysis.
Soch good, so much good. Invest good. Do you know there's an investor protection fund for investors, IPF, but if your trade isn't executed on the exchange or if it's some guaranteed return scheme, then even IPF will not be able to help you.
And what if your broker becomes a defaulter? Then?
In that case, IPF can provide you with compensation.
Where did you learn this?
NSE's website.
Soch good, so much good. Invest good.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. The Indian state of Maharashtra is geared up for the 27th National Youth Festival. Briefing media persons, the state's Chief Minister Eknath Shinde said that the state government and ministers are working on a war footing to ensure that there is no let-up in the festival. The logo and mascot were launched by Chief Minister Eknath Shinde through video conferencing on Friday. The meeting was attended by India's Sports Minister Anurag Singh Thakur along with state ministers and other officials through video conference. Preparations are underway in full swing for the Ram Temple inauguration, which is expected to draw dignitaries and people from all walks of life. A former litigant in the Ayodhya land dispute case, Iqbal Ansari, received an invitation to the Pran Pratishtha ceremony of Ram Temple scheduled for 22nd January. Volunteers on behalf of Sri Ram Janmabhoomi Tirth Kshetra handed him the invitation card. And now take a look at some other stories making news in India. Chief Minister of the northern Indian state of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath, launched a portal and application for complaint and appeal tracking system. It's designed to streamline the electronic submission and online adjudication of complaints and secondary appeals. India's cabinet, chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, approved the signing of a memorandum of understanding between the country's Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas and the Ministry of Natural Resources of Guyana on cooperation in the hydrocarbon sector. The MOU aims to strengthen bilateral trade and foster investments in both countries. Former South African Paralympic star Oscar Pistorius has been released on parole nearly 11 years after murdering his girlfriend Riva Steenkamp. Pistorius, dubbed Blade Runner for his carbon fiber prosthetic legs, shot the 29-year-old model through a locked bathroom door in the year 2013. Pistorius, now 37, has spent about 8.5 years in jail and 7 months under home arrest before he was sentenced for the murder. A parole board decided in November that he could be freed after completing more than half his sentence. Actor David Soul, best known for his role in the television series Starsky and Hutch, has died at the age of 80. His wife, Helen Snell, said he died on Thursday after a valiant battle for life in the loving company of family. The US-born actor was best known for his role as Detective Kenneth Hutchinson in the classic crime-solving series Starsky and Hutch. He shared many extraordinary gifts in the world as actor, singer, storyteller, and creative artist. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, and Instagram. You can also check out our website, ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I am Ramesh Ramachandran. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.